Once upon a time, in the heart of a vast, golden savanna, beneath the blistering sun and endless sky, lived a mighty lion named Arion. His mane flowed like fire in the wind, and his roar could shake the ground. Every creature of the forest feared him, not because he was cruel, but because he was powerful, silent, and always alone. He was the king, after all, and kings did not need friends. Arion ruled justly but distantly. He watched from the cliffs, hunted only when needed, and rarely spoke to others. To him, emotions were weaknesses. He had learned that the hard way when he was a young cub. His brother, Lero, had once tried to fight a poacher to save Arion's life and was captured. The memory of losing his only sibling had hardened his heart like stone. Since then, he built tall walls inside himself, never letting anyone close again. Not too far from Arion's territory, in the roots of an old baobab tree, lived a mouse named Miro. Tiny, curious, and full of energy, Miro was known throughout the animal kingdom not for his strength, but for his spirit. Where others saw limitations, Miro saw chances. He often helped birds find seeds, guided ants away from danger, and told stories to orphaned rabbits under the moonlight. But deep inside, Miro always felt small. He admired the strong and brave, especially Arion. He would sometimes sneak up to the edge of the lion's domain just to catch a glimpse of the magnificent beast. One quiet evening, as the orange sun melted into the horizon and shadows stretched across the grass, Arion lay resting under a tree, his eyes heavy with sleep. Miro, as curious as ever, saw him from afar and approached quietly. The mouse had never been so close to the lion. Overwhelmed with awe, Miro crept closer, marveling at the size of Arion's paw. It was bigger than Miro's entire body. But just then, Arion's eyes flew open. With a roar, he pounced, and in seconds, Miro was pinned beneath his heavy paw. "Why do you disturb my rest?" Arion growled, voice like thunder. Miro trembled but tried to stand tall. "Forgive me, mighty Arion. I didn't mean harm. I was only curious. I've admired you from afar for so long. You are everything I wish I could be, strong, fearless, respected." The lion blinked, surprised. No one had spoken to him like that in years, not since Lero. He narrowed his eyes. And what use is admiration from a creature so small it hides from the wind? Miro smiled sadly. Even the wind starts small, but look what it can become. For a moment, Arion said nothing. Then he lifted his paw, releasing the mouse. "Leave before I change my mind." Miro bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Someday, I hope I can repay you." Arion snorted. Unlikely. Days turned into weeks. The dry season came, turning the rivers to dust and the grass to brittle straw. Animals struggled to survive, including Arion. One morning, while following a new scent into an unfamiliar part of the jungle, Arion found himself in a narrow canyon. He was tracking a boar but didn't realize he had crossed into a trap. Hidden among the trees, poachers had returned, the same kind who took Lero. With a loud snap, the ground beneath him gave way, and Arion fell into a deep pit. Ropes and nets tangled around him, heavy logs pinned his limbs. He roared, thrashed, clawed, but it was no use. He was trapped. As the hours passed, exhaustion sank in. For the first time in years, Arion felt helpless. Memories of Lero filled his mind, the fear in his brother's eyes, the sound of the cage slamming shut. Was this his end? That night, the jungle was silent, until a tiny figure crept to the edge of the pit. "Miro?" Arion gasped, almost in disbelief. The mouse looked down, eyes wide. "You're hurt. Leave me. There's nothing you can do." But Miro shook his head. "I told you I would repay you someday." Without another word, Miro scurried down the side of the pit. He examined the ropes, the nets, the logs. Then, using his tiny teeth and endless determination, he began to chew. All night, he worked. When his teeth ached, he kept going. When the ropes refused to snap, he changed angles. He climbed, slipped, got bruised, but never stopped. Morning came, and just as the sun kissed the earth, the final rope gave way. Arion surged upward with the strength he had left, bursting through the weakened trap. He stood free once more. Panting, bleeding, and weak, he looked down at the mouse. "You saved me." Miro collapsed, exhausted, but smiled. Even the smallest can be strong. From that day forward, Arion changed. He still roared and ruled, but he no longer did it alone. Miro became his advisor, his friend, and his reminder that no heart is too small to make a difference. The animals of the jungle watched in amazement as their mighty king walked side by side with a tiny mouse. What once seemed impossible had become a symbol of hope, unity, and courage.